What's up everyone, welcome back to Lace Up channel. Today I'm going to tell you a story of a customer who has over $300,000 in theft in their warehouse. So let's get right into it. So yesterday I'm sitting in this chair about to make a video for you guys when my main sales rep opens the door and says, "Yo, we've got a phone call with the biggest beer distributor." And I was like, okay, let me run over there and jump on this call. When I get on the call, the customer starts outlining all of the issues they're having in their warehouses. They can't track lot numbers and expiration. When they bring product in, they've got no idea where it's going in the warehouse. They can't do replenishments, picking, shipping, returns without inventory discrepancies. And when I drill down a little bit further on those discrepancies, I realize that they've got over $300,000 a year in theft, where employees are in cahoots with the drivers. They're putting more product on the truck and somehow taking that product and selling it on the side to generate additional revenue for themselves. But there's no way to catch it because there's no system in place. So the only way they know it's happening is because they're having to do weekly cycle counts across their 15 warehouses. So weekly cycle counts tell them that there's theft, but not why the theft is happening. Now, the customer asks me point blank, "Mickey, how do you plan on resolving this issue for us?" And I love it when a customer asks me a pointed question like that because they're anticipating some kind of artificial intelligence that's gonna walk around the warehouse and monitor the employees. But that's not the case. The solution is much simpler. I asked them right away, is the person picking, checking, and loading the truck the same person? What turns out it is. That role in the warehouse combines those three steps in the inventory process. And that's a huge problem. Every single company that I work with that deters theft, they've got the picker as one person and then the checker and the loader as another. That way you've got segmented roles. This person cannot do both roles because very easily they can pick more product than what was ordered, put it on the pallet. Later they can check the pallet for the original quantity that was ordered and load additional product onto the truck after they've spoken with the driver. So now, if this customer gets a checker, one per warehouse, they know that 2 or 3 other warehouses account for 80% of that $300,000 a year theft. I think that they'll be able to remedy some of this issue, particularly if they implement some kind of spot check on the pallets before they're loaded onto the truck. But it's not just that that's going to decrease the theft. I think that in addition to having segmented roles and a checker, you need to have a system that automatically notifies you when you're short on inventory. So let's say we're picking from a pallet. I'm supposed to pick 10 cases. And as I pick the last one, I realize that there's 2 cases missing on the pallet. Well, any good WMS will automatically trigger an alert that creates a shortage cycle count on that pallet where an administrator or a manager has to walk out to the warehouse and physically verify that those 2 cases are indeed missing. Well, when this happens, if you have a WMS with proper auditing, you're able to look back at the audit trail and identify which employee was the one that was picking from that pallet. And because this happens on the fly, you're able to pinpoint exactly commonality between pallets and who was picking them, and you know, or you get a sense for who's stealing from you. Whereas if you don't have a system, what ends up happening, you have to wait until the end of the week or until the end of the month to do a cycle count. And as you guys know, that's very inefficient because you've got no way of tracing back that loss to an individual. So apart from that, I'm not the type of person that likes to solve a problem after the fact because I believe if you've got $300,000 in theft affecting your P&L, it's a huge issue. Why not solve it ahead of time? Why not implement these systems ahead of time? Why not put a checker ahead of time? But most importantly, why don't you set the culture and the incentives for your employees to not steal in the first place? Now, I've been a witness to some warehouses where I'm just blown away at the level of productivity. It's a warehouse that has an individual that's so focused on picking not just the right quantities, but as fast as humanly possible because they are incentivized. When an employee incentivized and that incentive makes up 30 or 40% of their take-home pay, they've got no option but to show up and try to figure out how to be as productive as possible. Now, in order to set up these incentives, there's really 2 things that you want to look at. The first one is picking performance. How many cases are picked per hour? How many cases are picked per day? How many orders are picked per day? And you're able, with the system, to identify who your highest performing pickers are. But cases picked doesn't necessarily indicate a true high performer because you have to incorporate picking accuracy. Picking accuracy is computed as follows. A WMS knows what was on the initial sales order. It knows what was picked, and then it can grab from the ERP system what was invoiced. If your original sales order was for 10, 8 were picked, and 6 were invoiced, that means that there was a discrepancy when it came to the picker of 2 cases because 8 should have been picked but only 6 were delivered. So in that situation, either the picker's inaccurate or the driver's straight up stealing from you. Nonetheless, over the course of many days of running this report, you're able to see exactly who your most accurate pickers are. And you do a function that's a function of cases per day and accuracy per day, and the person that has the best combination of those two gets the highest incentive. So you'll see the moment you implement a strategy like this, people will be exponentially more productive in your warehouse. Last but not least, and something that I don't understand why big corporations like the one I'm talking about haven't implemented is, why don't you just get a system? It doesn't need to be a crazy expensive WMS. It can be a simple inventory monitoring system that at least logs your shortages, that you can run an audit trail and see exactly who touched the transactions when, who moved the inventory when. That's all you really need to be able to find the theft. Without a system, it's almost impossible, so you kind of have to do a cost-benefit analysis and figure out, what is my theft? Okay, let's say your theft, for argument's sake, is $5,000 a year. Well, most distributors won't care about $5,000 a year because the cost of implementing a system, putting a checker in place, is exponentially higher than that. But when your theft approaches $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year like this customer, well, you have to get a system, because at $300,000 a year in 10 years, that's $3 million of theft that would have been easily prevented by a system controlling your inventory. So please get yourself a damn system. So by the conclusion of this phone call, the customer was blown away. In combination with segmenting roles, putting a checker in place, and implementing the system, they're going to be able to catch almost all of the theft in their warehouse. There's always going to be a little bit, but you don't want it to get outside of a certain threshold. A lot of my customers, they like to operate between 1% and 2%. My really good customers are all under 1%. If you could get anywhere near those numbers, you are in a golden spot. Anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed that video. If you did, go down below, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Also, go down in the comments and tell me what I'm missing. Am I crazy with this explanation? How are you guys preventing theft? I'm really interested to know. Anyways, guys, I love you. Take care. Peace.